Yes.
I didn't believe it when I heard it, but someone said that what he's talking about
Oh, last class in terms of for eternity?
I don't know. Last class for some maybe it's the last class for this quarter of this year.
No, he has done the amazing feat of with this class finishing of having taught all 18 classes, all 18 courses. Yeah, which is incredible. Yes. So yes, Lama Cliff will continue to teach. Fortunately. Alrighty, let's come on back.
I have a question for you.
Oh yes.
So you know you're talking about taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like when something comes up, say, oh, how did I create that stuff?
Right.
I do that, but I use it as an excuse to beat myself up. It's like, oh my God, I created that.
Yeah.
track it down, blah, blah, blah. So I take the responsibility, but then, like, what's the best way to, it's like shift from beating yourself up for attracting them,
Right.
creating it, and move on.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that's because if you think about it, man, you would be beating the hell out of yourself all day. I mean, honestly. No, it's very important at that time that, and we've talked about this in the class as well, that just as you're thinking about like, okay, what did I must have done something bad, something similar to this to bring this about. And and then when you start to have that thought about like, where you start tearing yourself, it's like, then think, and then I've also thought poorly of myself before as well, that I would now go to like beat myself up about it. So it's really, you're actually just kind of riding on that thought. It's like, this is how you're working your karma. This is how you're working how you've treated others in the past, is that when you say how you've treated others in the past, that absolutely includes you. How you've treated yourself. And that's the thing. I mean, we talk so much about, we've spent weeks talking about the lily that's not there and trying to prove that she is not there. And what's behind all of that is the fact of always remembering that there's still the lily that looks in the mirror. That lily is, when you look in the mirror, that person is real. That person is operating in this world. And so, just as well, any thoughts that you have in regard to that person are just as valuable as the thoughts that you have about how you mistreated that other woman or man or something like that. So it's really good to kind of, and that's great because that gets you into a rhythm then, because like I said, is that it'll come up throughout the day continually, like, oh man, I can't believe I did that. And then you start, and then so many times the next thought, once you start to get this kind of understanding, is like, man, and see, now I'm going to have to reap the karmic seeds of that later. I mean, especially, it's hysterical sometimes to hear, people who have been doing this for years, because they'll be like, well, it's going to come from that, Years from now, it's going to be 10 times worse, whatever. But we also have, and you don't need to do this necessarily at this point. The most simple thing to do at that point is just that, is for you to be like, that was not my intention. And I know it will only cause me greater suffering to beat myself up about it right now. And I'm going to try, so what I'm going to do is try to take care of my own mind so that I can take care of other beings, other people. Because that's how it works, ultimately, is that when we talk about all this kind of taking, not harming other people and so forth, that's where the absence of who we think it is we're helping comes into play, because what we're really doing is we're just constantly making impressions upon our mind of how we're living our lives and how we're treating other people. That's where the whole lake and the moon reflection really starts to kind of make sense in some ways. If your mind is that lake and it's reflecting, everything that is privy to it, then that's exactly why when you see that no matter what it is that you do, you can't change someone, you can't change a person. I mean, that's what I love so much about this path, is just that it always begins with you change you. You change your mind, and that's in those moments. And then, of course, the next step is that if that's not working for you, if it's, that karma might be pretty strong, that bad karma might be pretty strong coming back at you, like you really start to tear yourself up about it, particularly if it's someone you're really close to and you've got a history with them, that's when you can bring in the 4 powers, which Rosa was teaching this past month, which is that, in that moment, you take refuge in what we've been talking about here, which is that, you go to the fact of understanding whatever it is that you understand about karma and emptiness. is the fact of that
Karma and what?
emptiness. Yeah, the fact that this person is not fixed. This person is not, that you had this bad situation with is not fixed. You're not fixed. You're not permanent. You're not unchanging. They're not unchanging. That's an aspect of emptiness. And then the karmic side of it is that when you think, and I know that what I'm doing right now will and only can result in something good coming about it. It's like good can only come from good, and bad will only come from bad. So that's where you take your mind to in that moment. You're like, all right, I believe in that. I believe that's how things are working, in this world. And then you then you honestly feel a sense of apology for it, a sense of regret for having done it. And you say to yourself, and I'm going to try to not do that for a manageable period of time, which really can greatly vary from like 20 minutes to, a day or something like that. If there's like an argument going on and that person is still pretty lit, you're cooling down, you're kind of keeping your mind together, but you can see that they are clearly still on fire. That's where in that moment when you're like, okay, and I'm going to restrain from not doing exactly what they're doing, you might have to say to yourself for the next minute. Because if they're still like coming at you, in your face and whatnot, and you're trying to really not create the causes for this to happen again and much worse, you do something manageable. You say, I'm going to restrain from that, whatever it was that you did for a manageable period of time. And then like I talked about before, which is definitely the kicker, is you have a little makeup activity. You say, I'm going to do this to make up for that action. So those really are the four powers. So, you bring those into play when obviously you feel you need to, but it's great if you can just get that first thought. That first thought after you're like, oh man, why did I do that? And then as soon as you just start to go into yourself, you're like, well, and I don't want to do that either. Because that's just going to result in me hating, disliking, being angry at myself more and more, which means that, that's just more of a life of suffering. That's all it'll result in. So, does that help? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so, yes. So here we are. How in the world how can we really combine what we've been talking about over all these past weeks about emptiness in terms of potential, availability, the absence of what we think is there. How do we combine that with shamatha, with this highest level of quietude that we've reached? And the truth of the matter is that, going through the 9 levels of meditation, making it all the way up here, to the top, and then attaining full-on shamatha and gaining the physical and mental mastery is not enough. That's why there's just a little bit further to go. And it begins with the fact that when you're at that point in the meditation, you need to examine good old Lily, this Lily that we've been talking about. You need to confirm in your mind that there can't be a lily that's not coming from your karmic seeds, that's not coming from how you've treated others in the past, for you to be able to perceive this lily. And in this, this can be your teacher, this can be your partner, this can be your boss, This can be, your coworker. And that's exactly it. At that moment, you want to hold on to the absence of the lily that could never be there. That's what you want to fix on right there, is that if particularly in this meditation, in the golden room, if you're working with your teacher and you've reached this highest level and they are your meditative object and you're completely fixed on them, it is so crucial at that point that you realize that this projection is coming from your mind. It is not coming from anywhere else. And that's the truth, that it's coming from your mind. And this is a good thing about this, is like if at this point your fixation wavers or there's still some seeds there that still have some doubt about that, still believes that this is a pen to every single living being on the planet. If there's some part of your mind, there's some karmic seed that still believes that, then at that point, this is what's so great about this object. You go back to the pen. You go back to this, what we talked about, a few weeks ago, and you roll this through your mind again. You think on this, like, you think about the fact of like, okay, I'm in the deepest state of meditation right now. If a dog came in here and tried to take the pen, is the dog seeing it as a pen? And you literally go through those whole steps because it is as simple as that. And what's beautiful about it is that you can go back to the pen, which is which sharpens your mind back on the conceptual truth of this, the part of you that does believe this conceptually. So then you go back to your original object again, which let's say is your teacher. And what you've done then is that you've now brought that state of mind back into that conceptual understanding of how things are really working. That this can only be a pen because of the previous moments of mine where I have perceived it as a pen. And so I know how it functions, I know what to do with it and so forth, only because of the seeds that are in my own mind, that are manifesting as that. So once you've done that, you stay single-pointed on the absence of Lily, on the absence of your teacher, on the Lily who's not there, who could never be there and never will be there the way that you used to think she could be there. That's why this this little object goes so far, because when you're at this point, you don't want to lose this opportunity. So you go back to the $1.25 pen to actually help you realize how everything is happening. And then this is where it all comes together. And it's been described that this experience can be like 20 minutes. Because what happens in that moment then, when you've been able to fix on the absence of what you think is there, and you understand that, and it's unwavering, and it's clear, and it's completely, it is all that exists for you in your mind. There is absolutely nothing else in the world for you but in that moment. That is at the moment that you can perceive the ultimate nature of how things are happening. And more importantly is like that's how you're going to save the world. That's what happens at that point. Because you see the ultimate truth. And when you keep that fixation, and your understanding of emptiness at that point, it will actually become reflexive, actually. And there's no need to go back to this. And that is what is referred to as vipassana, or vipassana, corrupted in our language as vipassana is how a lot of people know that form of meditation, which means special insight. It's that instant realization that is the union of meditation and emptiness at that point. It's complete, it's total, it's pure, and it's the best thing that could ever happen to you. And subsequently, the best thing that will ever happen for the rest of the world. Finn, this is bringing us to the end there. And Finn he's got shamatha, he's turned it. He's turned that ultimate focus on emptiness. And that examination of the lily who's not there the way we used to always think she's there, that examination is called vipassana. That is the special insight. And it's beautiful because he has turned, it's like he's turned the biggest power of meditation on the biggest object, which is emptiness. Or for us in our terms, is the fact that lily is not coming from lily, and there's no lily that could ever be unjustly blamed. You remember when we were talking about that the gotcha is really, that the object, that's the object we deny, is when someone comes in the room and says to you, I know you took money out of the donation bowl last week. And immediately in you goes, I didn't do that. That I that just came up right there, that's the gotcha. That's the object we deny. Where is that I? Where is that person? Where is that being? Where is that, object? We cannot find that. We cannot find that. And that's exactly why when we say there is no person, there is no being that can be unjustly blamed in that way. The karmic correlation of that is, of course, that because of the laws of karma, and sometimes this is a hard pill to swallow, everybody gets what they deserve. That's the way it works. And because of that, if you believe in karma, because that's the thing, you either believe in the whole enchilada or not. But when you do, then you see that actually the universe is just in that way. And if that justice seems kind of paradoxical or unsavory to you, then that makes a lot of sense, because that's a lot of how we're working. It's like, I don't want to believe that. Especially, the Holocaust, people being innocently killed that we perceive. We do not want to believe that in that instance. And first of all, number one, we would never even use the terminology that they got what they deserved in that kind of instance. What happened there is that, we we've ended lives, of beings being like, it's happening all the time. I mean, walk on the sidewalk. Let's walk down the sidewalk. How many ants did you possibly step on? Let alone that which you're conscious of. And see, that's the thing about it, is that, Mr. and Miss Karma are conscious of everything. They're the ones keeping tabs all the times. It's us, our consciousness, that wants to not really want to remember that, or that time. I mean, even when we are quote unquote innocent kids and we saw that spider, because that scared us, that freaked us out, and there is that is a karmic seed. For you to see yourself kill another living being, that seed, and the thing is that all that seed can do is grow, and it will ripen. And that's why doing this meditation and getting it to this level where you're able to understand that truly and believe it, then of course you can completely start to perfect your world, and for everybody. But you can see some of the hurdles that might be there in the way to getting to that place. Let alone just being able to sit and not, have your mind flying off the object 50 billion times throughout the meditation. But fortunately, it can happen. We see Finn up there. I mean, at the end, he's holding up this, what appears to me as like a sword in his right hand. And you remember before he had his hook of watchfulness, but now he's holding up this sword. And very much in our tradition, the wisdom aspect of the Buddha is referred to in the form as manjushri. And what it is that, is he over there? Yeah. On that blue poster, you see the kind of two major figures there at the bottom, the two monks bowing to each other. There's the monk on the right, that kind of angelic form behind him is Manjushri, and he's holding this sword. And it's really the sword of the wisdom of emptiness, because he has perfect understanding of that. So here, on the map with Finn, that sword is that, and what that does is that cuts the root of ignorance. So what he has done is that he has perceived emptiness directly, which when you do that, you completely sever your ignorance forever. Thank goodness. I mean, that's just it, forever. And we talked about this at the beginning about how therapy, Western therapy is very useful and very helpful. But there are many aspects of it that function in the same way as Tylenol or an aspirin, and that is that it can in many ways just provide temporary relief. You can try to change your behavior, hopefully, and that's important. That's part of it. But the other part is also understanding how things are really working. And that's what this meditation does, is that it gets you to the point where you understand how things are really working, and you sever ever being able to think in a wrong way again. And I mean, if that's not liberation, I don't know what is. The truth be told is that then beyond that, what happens after, depending on your karma, of course, is that you go on, in this life, let's say, and then you're in the place where you're looking around and you're seeing like, okay, yeah, here you all are sitting there and so forth. And I can see the fact that I still can think of you as being self-existent. But I know that's not true. And if there's anything in your life where you're like, you know what's going on, but what's going on is not the truth, and you know that, but you're still going with it, that's what I think that experience would be like, is that you're still going with it, and the still going with it in this context is you still simply have the karmic seeds that still believe in self-existence of objects. That's all that's firing off, is that you still got all those seeds from all those times that it's like, yeah, I am absolutely believe that's coming from its own side. But you know, and when I say you know, it's like when we talked about like, in White Men Can't Jump when Wesley Snipes is saying to Woody Harrelson, like, you can hear Jimi Hendrix, but you don't hear Jimmy. I hear Jimmy. That's the same thing. You know what's really going on. And that's why, that's what keeps you on the upward spiral, is that you know the truth. Even though it's just like, you walk out in the street and you're like, nope, I am not stepping in front of that car that is driving towards me. Because you still have the seeds to see that thing as self-existent. There will be a time where that the mind evolves to the place where it's like concepts of cars and so forth don't even exist in that way anymore. But most importantly, at this point, you've had that perception. Finn is there. He's got the sword up. I love it. He's like in full Braveheart mode. And I love this too, that here, like coming out of his chest, you see like these ribbons that are flowing here. And to me, I perceive that is that now that he's fully realized the truth, now the path, this path of truth now just flows from his mind. And it's because of that his mind is completely realized that now he's turned around and he's now going to go back down the path to help others do the same thing. Because he could just keep walking off, kind of just like, walk off into the sunset of bliss, the sunset of the golden room. But I love this because he's turned around and the path is flowing from his heart, and he wants to help others have the same realization. Yeah. This whole poster really, in our whole journey here, has been about obtaining the state of mind, which is the instrument to perceive emptiness. That's really what all this is about, is to get at that point where your heart is just completely full, your heart and your mind is completely full of the truth. So now you can actually be of real service to people. You can really help people. I mean, if you achieve a certain level of fixation, this sense of shamatha, and it really will, the benefits of being able to concentrate single-pointedly on an object, you will enjoy a lot more of your life. I mean, in the most simple ways, you'll be able to deeply focus on what you're doing, what you're perceiving, and that will feel incredible. Geshe Michael uses this wonderful example, is that, for the first time in your life, you can sit down with a loved one or a family member and enjoy your time with them. Truly. Not one instance of affliction during that time that you sit with them. Doesn't that sound like a miracle right now? For all of us, just to be able to, and see, this is the beautiful thing, is that they've been waiting this whole time for us to just be able to pay attention to them in this way, without getting caught up in our own mishigas about like, oh God, you're going to go on that again, or every time you bring that up, why do you do that? And just all of the various things that come up in our mind with these people who we love. Might even be with the person who brought you into this life. I mean, that you literally would not be here if they hadn't brought you in. And now, because you've had this profound experience, is that you're going to be able to sit down with them, fully enjoy it. They will feel that too. You will see them feeling that and recognizing that, and that will be a breakthrough, just on the most simple level as that. Ultimately, the meditation should support your attempt to understand where things are coming from, or you really won't be able to help anyone, truthfully help someone. I mean, the source of our mind really lies within our karmic seeds, which simply put is the impressions in your mind of how you have treated others. And it's really useful now for all of us to get into the impossibility of what we think is going on. Just on that level. Just, sitting in traffic and thinking, it's impossible for this to be happening the way I think it's happening. And just follow that. Why? So you start to think about, like, what the hell was he saying about the lily? She cannot be coming from her own side. Otherwise, everyone would perceive Lily as Lily. Everyone. So whoever walks in the door, who's never met Lily, will perceive her as Lily. Because she's Lily. She is self-existently Lily. She can't be anything else but that. That's what self-existent means. It means that it has an essence. And an essence is unchanging. That's the definition of it. But, as it happens, someone walks in and they lean over and ask you, what's her name? Right there. That's the move. That person was just helping you realize, okay, she cannot be coming from her side. The anecdotes and the corrections that we spoke about are crucial. The watchfulness, the recollection, in the beginning, when we got into the specifics of thinking about having gratitude for those who have taught us. All of those are very useful, and use them. Please use them. But I will also say that in many ways, if you want to have really good meditation, really still, really deep, perceive emptiness directly, live an ethical life. And that's the path right there. Try not to harm anyone with your thoughts, with your words, with your actions. Because that honestly is what translates into the bad karma. Those are the bad karmic seeds. And when I say that of course means don't harm yourself. Don't think poorly of yourself. So that, living an ethical, moral life, a virtuous life, is one in which you are really trying to protect your mind and others' minds. So that's, it's like when you see someone like getting into it with another person, it's like, you have to judge every situation appropriately, but it's a very, very good motivation when you're going, you're like, hey, I don't want to see these, I don't want to have the impression in my mind of me seeing a moment where I could have helped and I chose not to help out of reasons such as like fear or, anything that's kind of afflicted, in the sense of that you feel this pang within your heart, which is that initial impulse, which is that, I really want to do something about this, and then all of these very good reasons rush in to say, no. And yes, there absolutely are moments where sometimes the better thing is not to throw your face right in front of the punch that's coming or something like that. But it ultimately comes down to you also having that concern for what's going on for other people. That's where I'm talking about, like, it's still, when you wake up in the morning and you go and look in the mirror, that person is real. That person is authentic. But then there is the absence of that person. And that's getting into the ultimate nature. So, yeah, you try to live, you try to live a good life, taking care of yourself, taking care of others as best you can. And then what that just starts to do is that you constantly are planting these crops of where there is no disturbance to the mind, because you haven't seen yourself disturbing the world. And it really is as simple as that. Granted, we all lived lives before we started taking this class.
What about, how does intention factor in? Like, let's say somebody got hurt by something you did, but you never meant for that.
Yeah.
So how does that factor in when it's not intended, but someone gets hurt?
Right, absolutely. In many ways, they say like intention is all, because you often you can experience things like that, and there actually are three divisions of karma. There's good karma, bad karma, and neutral karma. Neutral, I consider neutral to be good, actually, because when I realize that it's like, okay, no, I didn't want this to happen, and it's not something that is actually happening per se to you, such as that, you see a plastic bag blow across the highway or something like that. And it's like, well, okay, you have the vision of that, and you might say to yourself, well, is that because I did litter before? Sure, you could draw that karmic correlation, but at the same time, that would be fairly neutral. In a situation like that, where it wasn't your intention, but you see someone clearly who seems to be in a state of affliction about it, that's where it really is important to realize that you have all of the bad karma coming from previous in your life that could have nothing to do to be associated with that person, but it can ripen in that form. That's the thing is that when you have something that you say something to someone, and you had, let's say, as a matter of fact, you actually had a good intention, behind it, and they get upset, and you say to yourself, that wasn't my intention at all. So our immediate impulse there is to be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I didn't. Where's the connection to that? That wasn't my intention. They're upset, and that's what we call the karmic gap. And that is that if Lenin was right and there was instant karma, it would make things probably a lot more simple for us. But the truth of the matter is, our minds, because of how we perceive cause and effect, we still see a gap between the two. I do this is what happens. In the deeper understanding of karma, you did something when you were 20 years old, and that'll ripen 10 years later. That's what the gap can be. It could be 50 years later. And that's the part that kind of kicks us in the ass. So it can come up in the moment of that, you're seeing this person upset, it wasn't your intention at all. And that, what I'm saying there is that seed is ripening from something that could be well off in your past. What's important for you to do in that moment is, of course, is to have that kind of realization that you're like, I did not have this intention, and this is not the direct cause of this person being upset. This is coming from previous causes. Because what has a tendency to happen then is in those moments is that we do get confused or we get upset. Like, where is this even coming from? That's where it's coming from. It's coming from somewhere in your past with some other person that, you did something that caused them to be upset, whoever that person was. And that's where our belief in karma really starts to take root. And it actually, you'll find once you start doing that, when you're like, me giving you this glass of water to drink and then you drinking it is actually not the cause for you receiving a glass of water. The cause for you receiving that glass of water is because you previously have given someone something to drink before. So me being the delivery system, you see yourself getting this glass of water, it would seem as though, well, that's how I got the glass of water. Brian gave it to me. But the karma of that is only because you gave it to someone else before. That could have been earlier today. It could have been the time 10 years ago. So it's the same thing. So you can see this is where we're talking about like cutting at the root of our ignorance about how we see how things are working. Because when you follow that line of thought, you'll see that ends up being the truth then. In all cases, because if it was the case that you say something and someone gets upset and so forth, then it would be like, well, okay, whenever you say that, then that would have to be the case that someone would react in that way, and we know that's not true. We know that's not true. So that's more or less the simple form of that. All right, well, I'm just looking at what time it is. We'll do one last very brief meditation just to kind of send us off into bliss. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Okay. So feel nice and comfortable in your seat. And please watch your breath. Come to your golden room, sunlight pouring in with that beautiful tangerine glow, filling the whole space. So beautiful. Look outside at the wide blue sky above. Stay there, just with the sky. Surrender to it. Detect if your mind is leaving the sky and watch your mind bring it back. Drop your gaze down to the mountains and the valley, filled with that beautiful light of sunset. Come back into the golden room. Ask your teacher to please come and sit with you. Be content with them just sitting in front of you, golden sunlight shining on both of your faces, and just looking at each other's eyes. There's nothing else in the world, just their eyes. And the goodness that you feel between each other. See them reach their hands out towards you and place them on your head in a blessing. Just gently placing them on your head and giving you a blessing. Feel in your heart great gratitude for this teacher. And dedicate this meditation to them, to their happiness, and the happiness of the world. Come back into this room and relax and open your eyes. This is extraordinary good karma to learn this series, to learn this practice. So now just keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it. And hopefully realize the union of meditation and emptiness. I mean, that'd be great if you do that. We would all be very grateful if you do. Obviously, I'm available, if none of you have my email or something like that, I can give that to you. And if any questions start to come up that you want to talk about in more detail, and it's an amazingly beautiful practice. Go to the Ustream, refer back to them there, in terms of trying to do it with as you just brought up, the right intention, the right intention. Please continue to do all of your varieties of forms of yoga. You can now see how the two are inextricably bound at the highest level. So, once again, it's all about your mindset. It's all about your mindset, about what you're doing. So that's why if you are walking around the neighborhood, and the Zen practitioners, they have that wonderful practice of walking meditation, and you are thinking about these things. You're thinking about emptiness. You're thinking about how things are working. You're thinking about how karmic seeds are functioning in your life. And you're thinking about where you want to go with this, which is that you know if you perfect this experience in your mind, it will be perfecting the world. Because that's the only way you perceive the world. It's a beautiful thing. It's a perfect thing. We are looking at doing what will be the next meditation series. So we're thinking about actually doing what would be Lojong, which is sort of like it's not sort of, it's a 7-step practice for developing a good heart. Which, that's not to say that you don't already have one. So so you might call it perfecting your heart, which is, of course, the cornerstone of your spiritual practice, is how you're living from your heart. And it is really a beautiful meditation practice as well. Very much focuses on compassion. The compassion. As we did here, there's a lot of, obviously, the wisdom aspect that we got into. So, it could be a very good progression, because maybe we'll start it in August, might be September, would be to then move into that, because then you have what we call the two wings, which are is the wing of compassion and the wing of wisdom. And that compassion is method. It's how you're living your life. So there's how you're living your life, and then there is what you're thinking while you're doing all that living. And so the two together will take you where you want to go. So please, definitely with tonight, whatever you can donate to the center is always, I think we talked about last week, I was saying like donate to your practice, but now, tonight it would be more of a donation of what you will do for others with your practice. That's a good thing that's always a good thing to give with, is like thinking that this is what I want to do so I can really be of the kind of use that I want to be to other people. So, yeah. thank you all so much. This has been really a wonderful ride. It's been a wonderful ride. It's been a tremendous teaching for me. You've all been outstanding teachers, so I thank you for that. And be happy with this. Be happy when you're doing it. Remember, quality is king here. It's about the quality. It is not about the quantity or the duration. That'll come. That'll come. There will be the time that you'll get up, you come out of the cushion and you'll go by the clock and you'll be like, hell, that was an hour. And that's awesome. But it's not about the time here, it's about the quality. So enjoy it, be happy with it, be well with it, and thank you so much, all of you.